Good morning, everybody. The introduction, thank you to my foregoing speakers for the kind plug of Severn Partnership and Seable. A little bit about Severn Partnership. You've heard bits and bobs already. We're traditionally what we would call a land survey company, established in the 80s, incorporated in 2002. And spent a lot of our time on infrastructure projects, as you can see from our core client list. Especially over the last 5 years, we've formed a solid base of clients in the educational sector and in the property sector, and we think that is partially due to us being early adopters of the of BIM strategies and investing in technology, both data acquisition as well as data processing and delivery. So let's have another look at a BIM definition. We've heard a few already today, but thanks to more formal regulation and standardization around BIM, there aren't actually that many different definitions around anymore compared to a few years ago. And as, oops, are we moving through? Yeah, as data as an organisation of data capture, this is a definition that we'd quite happily sign up to. Coordinated digital data set contains appropriate computable information necessary to design, build, operate and decommission a project. However, we've already heard, and I totally agree with the fact that BIM is all about a process. It's an ideology. It's not about the technology. It's not about the model. It's about how you go about a project, how you implement it. And that's how it's now an accepted standard, PAS 1192. And if all this works now, you've seen the building disappear up there. It's not about buildings. The projects that we're all involved in may partially be about buildings, but it can be any kind of asset. And we're all talking about HS2. There'll be a number of structures, railway lines, and probably buildings as well that will be incorporated in that process. So why do we bother? We've done building. We've done building management and maintenance and assets for decades, but to be quite honest, we haven't really done it very well. So total overhaul of a process has usually one prime objective, and that's saving money. But further than that, implementing a BIM process has a lot of other welcome side effects other than saving money from the bottom line. So carbon emissions can be monitored more effectively, down to the last light bulb if necessary. It's a lot of continuity and availability of up-to-date information. Where's the rest? And in general, the management of the asset over its whole life cycle is improved. Safety performance of a construction project can be monitored more effectively. So, whilst we don't have to agree whether BIM's more about a rabbit or a duck, there's still quite a bit of uncertainty and different perceptions of BIM around and in the industry. Some organisations have made it their mission to be at the forefront and pave the way, whilst others start jumping on the bandwagon as the mandate has passed. And believe it or not, there's still plenty of organisations out there who are the critics and the cynics and don't think it will ever catch on, but I expect none of those to be in the room today. Sorry. So what do we understand of, as an organisation, of a BIM process? What is at the core of it? For us, it's about the capture and the supply of accurate dimensional information to inform the process. In order to do that effectively, it needs to be specified properly, and previous speakers have mentioned it a couple of times. The expectations of the client are very important and they're very real, and even now they are still quite poor in explaining these requirements to the suppliers. It's very important, and I'm going to speak a bit more about specification later on. The information that is produced needs to be accessible by a variety of stakeholders. Again, as mentioned previously, it needs to be able to explore and to be made available to non-technical stakeholders, people that can't read drawings, that don't have a MicroStation or a Revit license. And once a comprehensive data set is produced, make sure the most is gotten out of it. Reuse it for safety briefings, logistics planning, or even marketing. But for us, it's all about the data, and for us it is the I in BIM, the information. That is where the crux sits. So how to go about it? There's a plethora of information available. It's all in the public domain. PAS 1192 has been mentioned. There's a variety of less formal groups who produce guidance notes, and a lot of organisations are now working actually to a formal BIM Level 2 accreditation and certification. So what else can companies do to prepare for the future? So one thing might be getting Revit licenses and getting all the technology and implementing a process, but there's a bigger picture to consider. So to buy into technologies such as cloud computing, being at the heart of shared information readily accessible, which will enable mobile access to data anywhere, anytime, and identifying value in spatial data over and above its intended purpose. And buying into the Internet of Things. It's here and it's happening. It's one of the things that's not going to go away, and it's going to accelerate. And in general, get a heads up of the technology that's coming around the corner and the processes that the industry is adopting, and avoid the Kodak route that I'm sure everybody is familiar with. So for us as a survey company, change has been about the only constant over the last 20 years. But the most noticeable change we've had in the last 2 decades in terms of change of survey technology started in 2003 when we acquired our first laser scanner. Heavy piece of kit, setup took about anything between 1 and 2 hours, heavy duty batteries, usually running out after 4 hours. We fast forward 10 years, the technology is now portable, reasonably lightweight. It still looks bulky, but it's a lot more lightweight than previously. The computing unit is on board, and a set of batteries that usually fits in your pocket will last you a full working day. And just when we thought technology couldn't really take any further leaps, 2 years ago we invested in a mobile mapping unit. Now, that is bulky. It's mounted on cars or railway vehicles or boats, capturing laser scan data virtually in a drive-by. This is an example data set captured with that technology. So the accuracy of that is about 40 millimeters. That can be brought down to about 20 meters. That would need about 4 man-hours spending on the pavement. And it could be brought down even further to 10 millimeters by investing about 4 man-days, again on the pavement. No foot has been set on the highway at that point. But you can see by having a good think about accuracy of the data set required, it has an exponential effect on time and subsequently cost of a project. So again, going back to specification, being very well aware of your requirements and what exactly it is that you're after, specifying what is necessary and not what is possible, will make sure that you get a product that's fit for purpose and that is in line with your budget. Let's cycle through the next one. So where's it all going to go? What's the next technological revolution around the corner? And about a year ago, I would have said that Prometheus style mobile scanning belongs into the world of science fiction, but it's not quite as fancy, but it is starting to happen, and that's what I mean when I mentioned the Kodak route earlier. At this point in time, we do not know what technology will be coming around the corner in a couple of years' time, impacting all of our businesses. So this is, again, a mobile scanning solution. Takes the car away, but it makes access a lot easier. It means you don't need roads, you don't need railways, you don't need rivers. Wherever you can go, laser scanner can go. Currently doing a lot of trials with indoor mapping. You can see the GPS unit on top, so it's a very successful tool for outdoor mapping, and it's being used effectively for mapping of overhead utility lines. Indoor mapping, they still need a little bit of work on accuracy, but like I mentioned, another year or 18 months, and I think it'll be a serious competition for the traditional laser scanning techniques and improve survey time radically. But we look at it as an opportunity going forward. So as a data capture organization, it will provide us with a USP. So we always try to be amongst the ones that adopt technology early, because if we're not the ones forging ahead, eventually we're going to be the ones that are left behind, because somebody will. It offers a wider picture opportunity, move away from the one-trick pony solution, consider diverser fields. It'll improve efficiency, and like we always try to do, deliver more data in less time for a lower cost, which benefits our organisations as well as our clients. And it'll open up new markets and new deliverables. So this is some of the outputs that we can achieve from mobile data. So there is an elevation frontage. Like I said, reasonably low accuracy, so nothing for architectural and engineering design, but looking at rights to light or conservation or just record keeping. It's certainly something to be considered, given that it was captured in a 10-minute drive-by. And some more accurate data, more accurate highways data embedded with UAV and LiDAR data. And project risk is something that we speak about often with our clients. For us, it's very important working in the railway sector. We need to keep our workforce safe. If we can allow them to spend less time on track and still capture the same amount of data, it benefits our safety performance and also our client safety performance. Collaboration, there it is. We've heard it a few times already, but having the conversations with your clients and with your supply chain about what is required from the data set, what it is going to be used for, and explore added value together. There might be some ideas that you have as an organisation, or there might be other requirements that your clients have that you as a subcontractor might not be aware of. And looking below the ground, so producing 3D models above ground is a generally widespread practice now across industries, but it's starting to penetrate ground as well. And we've been capturing utilities for many, many years, but like mentioned before, it's generally presented in a very convoluted format of drawings to different grids, and they don't match. And BT have theirs, and the utility providers have different sets of drawings. To be able to bring them all together and visualize them and display them in a way that the client understands it is invaluable to a project, and it'll manage the risk. So why bother with laser scanning in the first place? And I don't think anybody here will dispute the value of it. But is it actually really providing that much more information compared to traditional techniques? We believe it is, and it's rapidly killing off traditional survey techniques for plenty of projects. Remember the Kodak road we spoke about earlier. So laser scanning has become very commonplace in the survey industry, to the point where people are writing books about it on why it is important and why we should all be doing it. So there's a couple of images from that publication. So just looking at the left-hand picture, there's absolutely no way that I can think of that this infrastructure project could be visualized or captured any other way. We're looking at different levels, complex access. So you can see there's two tube lines connected by the station up at ground level. There would be absolutely no way capturing that traditionally, especially given the limited access that we would have to these facilities. And the graph on the right-hand side just demonstrates how affordable laser scanning has become over the last decade. The clients are starting to see the value, the quality of the data is continually going up, and the cost is continually going down. So there's a variety of equipment providers out there. There's very few survey equipment providers that aren't producing a laser scanner. So the choice and the competition is there, benefiting the buyer. But where do we go from there? So we capture the laser scan data, register and bring all the setups together, and then after that it's really about what the client wants, what have they specified. So there's a multitude of possible outputs in the spirit of BIM. The last one at the bottom is usually the desired one, but we actually find that a lot of our clients are so used to working with point clouds, they are quite happy to develop the model themselves. They know exactly what they want, they know what they're after, which bits are the important bit from the data captured. They're quite happy to take the raw scan data off us and develop it from there. But equally, as a company, we are happy to provide that data for them if it's specified appropriately. So we would look at compatibility, so software versioning is important. compliance with BIM Level 2 standards, depending on the project. And see where we can add value. So explore the specification that we have from the client and speak to them. Find out, what is it for? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Because once that comprehensive data set exists, it's a very simple and small exercise to add little things here and there, such as adding the attributes to the object. It is all about the specification. So here's the HS2 BIM strategy. So there's just a couple of things I want to mention. So you can see just at the start of the steps there, it says right first time. So they've got a consultation phase. They're focusing on coordination and consistency, and all these are key words that can only be achieved by having a clear vision and a purpose and a very detailed and accurate specification for every element of the project. As soon as ambiguity comes in it, somebody down the line is not going to get what they expect. And in terms of specifications, there's a number out there, publicly available, but very often a project-specific one can't be replaced by the overarching standards, to the point where when we are not satisfied with the specification we get from the client, we will give them our own. So if they're unable to tell us what exactly it is they want from us, we will tell them, well, based on the bit of information that you have given us, we think this is what you need and this is what we're going to give us. So also from what we are going to give you. So from a contractual point as well, it is something where as an organisation, we then don't have to have these difficult conversations at the end of the project. Oh, this is not quite right and this is not fit for purpose. But we're always going to try to resolve any of these issues at the start of a project. Because, like mentioned a few times before, it is all about collaboration, and no one's entering into any of these projects with a view to have somebody leaving with a not fit for purpose product at the end. And sometimes it's as simple as visualizing things like level of detail, what will and won't be included in the model. And at other times, it needs to be a little more comprehensive, with specific examples of what will be modelled, what won't be modelled, metadata that will be added or won't be added. There's quite a difference between the left deliverable and the right-hand deliverable. So unless that is specified at the start and the client knows what they're going to expect, they will either get something that is not fit for purpose because it doesn't contain enough information, or they will get something that is over-engineered and too expensive. Oops. Yeah, and there we've got the variety of software packages out there. So that's another thing that we always consider at the start of a project. There are at times compatibility issues from one to the other. So we'd like to know at the start of a project what final output we're working towards. But I must say the software vendors, they're starting to get better and becoming a bit more compatible with one another. But we still find that clients and projects, they have their favorite packages that they use. So we're quite happy to work towards all of them. So a few more images around specification, just demonstrating the difference in outputs that we can produce, and showing you how different it can be, making sure that that you know what you're getting at the start of a project. So looking a little bit at the procurement stage, and specifically for HS2, it hasn't been mentioned too many times so far, but whatever work any of us will do on HS2, the end user of our products will be HS2 Limited right at the top of the pyramid there. And information that we provide will filter upwards from the tens of thousands of subcontractors and contractors. So we need to ensure suitable compatibility with the end user's specifications and BIM ideologies, and those need to filter both ways. So HS2 Limited has a duty to ensure that all their Tier 1, Tier 2 contractors comply with their BIM strategy and BIM ideology, and equally all Tier 4 and 5 subcontractors need to make sure they're aware of it. Somewhere along the line, I worry that there'll be the weakest link. At some point there'll be information withheld due to lack of knowledge, and services and products will be procured or delivered that aren't fit for purpose. So some of the work that Severn Partnership do and that would be relevant to HS2. I mentioned utility surveys, which are now also moving into the 3D world, laser scanning buildings, railway infrastructure, as well as highways. And 4D projects have been mentioned earlier. I've just got a little animation of a project that we completed just to show you what that will look like. So demonstrating the different phases of a refurbishment project. So demonstrating and simulating the deconstruction and then reconstruction through the construction phase. So the benefits there are generally you can visualize it a lot easier, but also looking at the workforce that is actually going to be doing the physical installation or the deconstruction. They'll be able to look at a simulated workflow before they go out on site. So there's a training value in it and there's a safety value in it. And from a commercial perspective, the project can be monitored. So you can fast forward through it a couple of months and you can monitor, well, where should we be? In 2 months' time, you can go and have a look at the project and you can make sure that it remains on track. The outputs that we produce, like I mentioned earlier, there's a variety of things. Sometimes it is just a point cloud. More often than not, we develop it into 3D models. We have started recently adding metadata to it, but very often as a data capture and a data provider, it's very difficult for us to obtain that information. So we will need help from our clients from it if that is part of our remit, and most often our clients will take on that responsibility because they will have the links to the manufacturers. Most important thing, the data needs to be accessible. It needs to be able to be shared amongst all the stakeholders in the project. Seeable was mentioned earlier, so augmented and virtual reality applications, they're becoming more and more asked for amongst our clients. So once a generally quite expensive project has been captured and modelled, there'll be a big data set sitting there, usually used for one purpose. So we're trying to educate our clients of the further use that they can have out of these models, to recycle them and reuse them for further purposes. And that may be training, safety monitoring, induction of personnel. or making it visual to non-technical people. So this application, for example, like mentioned from Dan earlier, it goes on iPads or it goes on your mobile phone, and the CEO of an organisation with the wallet paying for this project is able to look at it without having to sit in front of a PC and navigate his way around Revit. It's a cost-effective solution to add value to a data set that has already cost a lot of money. We've briefly seen this already as well, and although the initial design and construction phases will hold the majority of the effort and the cost, it's in the maintenance of the building where most of the value and most of the benefits will be obvious. As long as at the start we can ensure that the data is interoperable and accessible from all stakeholders, that everybody involved in the project has the required skills and the knowledge, and that may be accreditation and certification in a few years' time, but we need to ensure that everybody working on the project knows what it is about. Everybody's aware of the expectations and the final outcome of the project and shares the same vision for the project. So there's a bit more follow-up reading if anybody has any gaps to fill. And I shall leave you there. Thank you for your patience and your attention, and I'll be happy to have your questions during the panel.